everybody, if you can just let me know if the sound is good, then we can get started. Hi Judy. So we'll just give everybody a couple seconds to join. Hi everybody that's joining. Okay, so welcome to tonight's live class. We're going to be doing a pro class, which means we are going to be working a little bit faster. If you do get stuck with anything, then you are more than welcome to leave your questions in the comments. If I don't get to it, then one of our lovely admins will. So we're going to be making this really cool garden sign. So I've done a Nana's garden sign, and I'm going to be doing an Oma's garden sign tonight. This is great for mom, Oma, Nana, whoever you have in your life that has special kids. This is really great. So I'm just going to change it so you can see me. So this is what we are going to be making. It's a really cool little garden sign with a hanging thing. So as you can see, we've got all of the kids' names, and we're going to be making that out of heavy chipboard. So let me just stick that down. So what you're going to need is you're going to need obviously some heavy chipboard, and this is the 2mm Cricut heavy chipboard. There we are. Sorry, light's a little bit strong. Then we are going to be using some black permanent vinyl, so I'm using smart vinyl, and then you can have any color of the removable vinyl. We're also going to use some masking tape. So the masking tape is great if your strong grip mat is not the stickiest, then you can actually use your masking tape to stick your heavy chipboard down. So if you do not know what the strong grip mat looks like, it is your purple mat, and that is what you're going to need to cut your heavy chipboard. Then we're going to be using some paint. So I'm using the charcoal paint, and I will be using a blue, a green, and there's a beautiful pink. For my sign, I also used the charcoal paint, and that is the cloud white. So you can obviously use whichever color you want. You don't have to use the colors that I've used. You will also need your standard grip mat, and that is going to be to cut your vinyl. You will need a knife blade, very, very important. And then I'm going to be using some jewel bond. So that is going to be to stick all of my pieces together. And then I've opted for some twine for the hanging section. So I think I've covered everything that you're going to need. Let's jump into designing it. Okay, so we're going to start with a new project. And what I love about this is we're basically going to be recreating everything from scratch, which is super, super cool. So what we're going to do is we're first going to create our fence. So I'm just going to show you how I decided on the size. So I know that my heavy chipboard is 28 centimeters. So to be safe, I think I went with 27.5. And then I changed this to a guard. So this is just so that I know I'm only using one piece. If you want to go bigger, obviously you can do that. It's completely up to you. Hello everybody that has joined. I'm seeing lots of people in the comments. Love seeing you all here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to insert a square, and then we're also going to insert, let me find it, I think I used our half circle. No, I didn't. So I used this little guy here. Okay, so we're going to rotate this. Let's just see. Nope, we wanted 180. That's what we want. Okay, then we're going to resize this, and we want it to be 6.364. So it's a very specific size. Okay, and that's going to be the top of our slats for our fence, and we're obviously going to match the size. Okay, and we can just zoom in so we can see a bit better. and we're going to stretch this out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say align center, oopsie, horizontally. And that's just going to make sure that they are exactly where they need to be. And I want this to be 22.328. So you can see I've unlocked it so that I can change it on its own. We're going to say align center horizontally again. Just make sure I'm seeing a little overlap here. So that's 6.364, 6.364. So we're just going to match it up because obviously we want it to be nice and smooth. And there you can see we've got it nice and smooth. Actually, we don't. So you can see I'm just trying to get it so that where it overlaps, it's nice and smooth. Okay, then what we're going to do is we are going to weld this. Okay, so we just want to make sure that it's the right size. So we've got 22.857. I mean, it's okay, but I am just going to change it. And then we're going to need 3 of these. And that is our slats. Okay. So you can see it fits in there. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our little crossbars. That's going to keep it together. So for that, I'm just going to use a simple square. And for that, I went with 18.974. So I am using very specific measurements, but that's just because I've already made it and it works for me. When I started making this, I did just kind of go by eye, so please don't feel like you have to follow these exact measurements. If you make yours 18 centimeters, it's not going to make much of a difference. The main thing you want to do is you want to make sure that it covers all 3 of them. Okay, then we're going to do 3.257 high. That one's going to go there, and you're going to duplicate that for the bottom. So let me just change these colors so that you can see it a bit better. Okay, so if you look at it, you can see that they don't completely go to the edges, and that's because obviously these are not together. So once they're together, it will go to the edges. Okay, so then I needed to create something at the back so that I could actually hang my twine. So if you have ever tried to staple twine to the back of something like I have, you will realize that it is very difficult if you don't have an industrial stapler. So I came up with this, which I think I stole the idea from another hanger or ornament somewhere, but I thought it was a really cool idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this, and we're going to duplicate it 4 times. Well, let's do 3. Okay, so the first one I did 11.6 wide, and I did 1.7, it's again very specific, 1.732. Okay, that's going to be our little midsection. Then this one we did 16.451 by 1.732. Okay, so that's going to fit perfectly into that. Let's send this to the back so you can see it. There we are. Okay, and then this one we're going to do 2, and again 1.732. So with these ones that I'm busy with, it is very important to make sure that they are all the same height because they need to fit into each other. Okay, so we're going to duplicate this, And exactly how I'm setting it up here is how we're going to have it on the back so that we can have our twine through it. Okay, so that is our base, very simple. You can use this base for anything. It doesn't have to just be this. You can come up with any type of garden sign that you like. It doesn't even have to be a garden sign. It can be pretty much anything. Okay, so next we're going to add in our flowers, and then we're going to add in our names. So let's put our text first. And for this one, we're going to have Oma's garden. And I went with a font called Embassy. Let's have a look. I did bookmark it. So there it is. It's a beautiful flowy font. Okay, and I just wanted it to fit into the section here. So you can see I'm not going with any specific size. I'm just doing it by eye, making sure that it fits onto our slat. It's not going to go off onto the edge. Okay, and then for our images, I added in this cute little bird. I added in 2 of them. So you can do anything you want. You can do butterflies, you can do squirrels, whatever you want. I thought it was just a cute way to take up a bit of the space at the top. So for our birds, I went again with a very specific 4.217, and they're going to sit here. We're going to flip that one, and then I'll also just move them slightly so it looks like they're sitting like so. Okay, then this part is a little bit tedious, but I think it works very well in the end. So the first thing I'm going to do is just resize these to make sure that it fits where I want it to fit. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move all of this out of the way so it doesn't distract you. Okay, and we're going to duplicate this 3 times. So obviously you're going to do as many flowers as there are children. If you have a very big family, you may need to make a bigger fence. So we're going to do a duplicate of 3, so that I can get my 3 flowers, and then we're going to do another 3 so that I can get our leaves. Okay, so those are all out the way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say contour, and an easy way to do this is you say hide all contours. You can see that I have my flower here, so that is the first one that I want. I'm just going to go and make sure, let's have a look, and there's my first flower. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to do this again with all of them. So I'm going to say hide all contours, and then I'm going to get my second flower. So you can see I'm opening up the middle sections. I'm then going to click on the outside, and I'm going to deselect that. That's going to leave me with 1 flower. Okay, we go again, hide all contours. I'm going to use this one now. So the contour feature for me is probably one of the most underrated features. I absolutely love it. You can use this to actually create a layered item out of a single layer image. So I could add color into these flowers. We're not going to do that because we're obviously going to be creating stencils and we're going to be painting. So we're going to say hide all, and then we're going to deselect that. So the trick with contour is that it has to have closed sections. So you can see these leaves. I'm able to select each of the little sections of the leaf because they are closed. If they were open, I would not be able to contour them. So that's just something to remember as well. And you can obviously use whatever you want. You don't specifically have to use these flowers. I just found these and I really like them. So we're on to our last one, hide all contours. Get rid of, so just to show you, you can see here if I click on it, nothing happens. You have to have at least one section of your image selected. So it will only let me deselect that once I have something else selected. And there we have each of our little individual pieces. Okay, we're going to bring this back up here. Okay, now we're going to lay everything out how we want it. So I went with this kind of vibe. Okay, so I wanted the girls on the sides and then I wanted the boy in the middle. So it's quite funny, in our family on both sides there are 2 girls and 1 boy. Okay, so what I also did is, you can see I have a smaller flower that is for the smaller one in the family. So what we're going to do is we're going to just make sure all of these are where we want them. Okay, we're happy with that placement. There are a lot of wildflowers on DS. I could honestly get lost for ages, so we're going to weld this. And then we're going to insert another square. And this is going to be used just to slice our little bottom section so that we can add in our names. There we are. So we're going to slice that and then just delete all of that. So that's going to give us the space to add our names in. So for our names, I used a font called Amertha, this first one. I kind of loved the way it flowed. It's a little bit messy, but it's fun and I love it. So the first name we're going to do is Skylar. We're then going to do Kingston, and then we're going to do Riley. So what I like about this font as well is it's a little bit thicker. So when I make it smaller, so Skylar will go on this side, Kingston in the middle, and Riley on the edge. So when I make it smaller, it's not going to become too thin for me to cut and to obviously weed. So that's why I've gone with this. You can obviously go with something that is a little bit more flowy, but just remember that you are going to have to weed that. So that's just something to remember. Okay, so we do want that to touch our little stem. Over slightly. Okay, and then Kingston. So I didn't go with a standard font size for each of the names because obviously some of the names are bigger, some of them are smaller. And then what I also did is I decided for some of them I would actually go with a nickname. So here I'm going to go with King. Obviously I am just trying to look at the name and then see, is it going to be easy for me to weed it? Is it going to be difficult? Is it going to be easy for me to transfer it? So I do often look at my designs and try to adjust them to take into account the size that I'm doing, what material I'm working with. I think that's very important. And yes, we probably could make anything work, but sometimes it is better to just roll with it. Okay, so now we're going to make sure we have everything where we want it. We're going to select our leaves and our flowers. Where are the rest of our flowers? Oh, there it is. Okay, we're going to duplicate this. And then we're going to say combine weld. And we're going to move that aside. We're going to change that color. So I'll change it to purple because the removable vinyl that I have is purple. So it'll help us to remember what we'll be cutting. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select our names and all of our other pieces. And we're going to say unite. So with these, I've united them instead of welding them in case I want to come back and change it later on. I can always come and do that. But it's important obviously to weld it, otherwise what's going to happen if you attach it, so either weld or unite. If you want it to be permanent, you're not going to come back and change it later on, then you can weld it. If you do want to change it, then you unite it. What it will stop from happening is everywhere that things overlap, it'll stop it from cutting into that. So we're going to save this. Okay, we have it saved, and now we're going to say make it. Okay, so I have already cut and painted the heavy chipboard part, and the reason I did that is because when I made this previously, it gave me a time of I think 36 minutes to cut the heavy chipboard. So it's important to remember that when you cut heavy chipboard, it's not going to cut through the first time, it's going to do multiple passes, and that's how you get a nice clean cut. If it just cut through one time, you would probably get a very skew cut. So it does take some time. I did find that halfway through it was ready to remove, but I didn't want to take that chance with a class. Obviously have you here the whole day cutting things. Okay, so what you want to do here is you're going to want to rearrange these. So if you hold down the shift key, you can move it nicely. So remember, you only have 28 centimeters. That's how big your heavy chipboard is. So you want to make sure that it fits into the 28. You can go a little bit smaller. So what I find is in these little sections here where it cuts very close together, it actually starts to shred it. Now that's not going to affect your design, but it is going to leave a mess on your mat, which if you're trying to prolong the life of your mat, you obviously don't want that. So this one we can say move. I did forget to change it to black, so we're going to move that there, and we're going to move this. Okay, so we just make sure they're obviously not overlapping, and that is ready to go. So the first thing we're going to cut is we're going to be cutting our removable vinyl, and we're going to be using obviously the removable vinyl setting for that. So when you cut your heavy chipboard, just to let you know if you haven't done it before, it's super simple. You are going to use the heavy chipboard 2mm setting on Design Space. Let's just switch over here so you can see I am using removable. Okay, and that's asking for our fine point blade. So let's just switch over so that you can see. So let's move that guy out the way. Okay, so when you are cutting your heavy chipboard, it's going to ask you for your knife blade, and that is what your knife blade looks like. Okay, so you're going to insert that. You're going to make sure that your heavy chipboard is stuck down properly to your mat. If your mat is even just a little bit not sticky, you're then going to obviously place your masking tape on the edges, and that is going to stop it from moving while it's cutting. So what will happen if it moves while it's cutting? There's a couple things that could happen. Number one, your machine will pick up an obstruction and it will stop cutting, and you will waste your whole piece of heavy chipboard. The other thing that can happen is that it can move just slightly, and then you're obviously not going to get a nice clean cut. Okay, so here's my heavy chipboard that has cut, and I've already painted it. So this is why I also pre-cut it, is because I think I did probably about 4 very thick coats of the white to cover it nicely. So we're just going to start sticking this together while that cuts for us. Okay, so the first thing, see, our glue is already very excited to come out. So I just put a little bit, this is not a little bit, so I did just use a little bit of glue on the edges just to give me some support. Unfortunately, my glue is messing everywhere currently. And you'll see, so I only painted one side. I am going to go back and paint the other side because it does look very messy from my fingers. So that's up to you if you want to do both sides or one side. What you can do is you can cover the back with your masking tape just to protect it. Okay, so we do want to just line that up. And this is not what's actually going to keep it together. This is just to give me a little bit of extra support right now. Okay, so because my glue is messing, we're going to jump over to this part. Okay, so this is the part where we are going to have our string through it. I know it's not called string, but I lost my words for a minute there. Okay, so here we do want quite a bit of glue. Okay, and this piece is going to go in the center. So you can see I painted one side and I haven't painted the other side, and you can see I haven't painted these. Okay, so we're going to put that there, get it as centered as possible, and we're just going to press down. Okay, make sure it's all nice and lined up. And then we're going to do the same with these little pieces. Again, we do want quite a bit of glue because this is going to have a bit of weight attached to it. So this is going to go right on the edge, like so, and you can see we're leaving a little gap here, and that's where the string is going to go through. So you can see that. Okay, making sure everything's nice and lined up so it's neat. And then we're going to do the same here. And there we are. So this is going to obviously go on the back, like so. And you can see it's got 2 little slots, and our string is going to go through the slots. We're going to tie a little knot, and it's going to obviously stop there. So that is a really cool way to attach any kind of sign that you want to make. So obviously you don't have to go with a fence. You can do a circle, you can do pretty much anything, a heart, a butterfly, whatever your heart desires. Okay, we're going to cut our other vinyl while we wait. This is our smart vinyl permanent. Okay. You can see my mat is a little bit bumpy. going to do this one now that we've got our glue under control a little bit. Okay. So now we're going to glue this one. And again, I'm just using a really little bit of glue here. It doesn't need to be a huge amount. You'll see why. Let me just get my mat for my table because I think I am gluing to the table. Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. Okay, I was gluing it to the table. Okay, just want to apply some pressure. So what you will also notice is when you paint your heavy chipboard, it might warp. So that is also why I wanted to paint it before the class, is I wanted to give it a chance to flatten out. So you can see it's nice and flat, it will flatten out. Okay, oh, I didn't put enough glue, but it's fine. So we're just going to flip this. Okay. Make sure everything's straight. Lining up beautifully. Okay, there we are. Now we're going to attach this, and this is what's going to help keep it together while we work. Okay, while that dries, we're going to start weeding. So this is going to be our little stencil that we're going to use to paint. If you're not going to paint, then obviously you would skip this step completely. If you don't want to have a white backing, you can also use wood veneer. So what you would then do is you would duplicate all of your fence pieces, and you would obviously cut one piece out of veneer and the other out of heavy chipboard, and you could have a wood look fence, which I think would be really, really cool. So it's really up to you how you decide to decorate your sign. And I must admit, I've been using removable vinyl so much lately. Yeah, it's actually I've been using it for pretty much everything. So for the Easter stuff, I made a lot of stencils. For the boxes, I think I did say that in one of the classes. I'm going to be doing some wood burning, and I'm going to need a stencil for that. So there's lots and lots of uses for it. Natalie says the veneer would look amazing, and I must agree. I think the dark wood veneer would look absolutely stunning. It would give it that real wood look. And then you could maybe use a white vinyl for your names and your flowers. I see everybody has been doing amazing things with the Mother's Day competition. I've seen some really, really amazing projects. If you have not yet started, there's still time, so you should definitely get in on that. And if you have already completed it, like I know quite a few people have, then there's actually a new challenge that was posted yesterday. I think it's matching Mom and Me, and I think that's also a super, super cool challenge. You can make a lot of really cute projects with that. we're almost done. So I'm just going to stick all of these pieces here. And Hobby X, literally how many days away? I think like 2 days away. All of these public holidays have really messed with me, but I saw there's some really amazing deals at Hobby X. There's also some very, very exciting things planned. So they're going to have like a stage where you can watch different projects being made. There's going to be classes. There's going to be a members only event, which is super exciting. I am so jealous that I'm not going to be able to join in on that. And there's also going to be a secret sale, so I'm very excited to see what happens with that. I'm sure it's going to be something really amazing. So if you are in Joburg and you do not have your tickets yet, you definitely need to get in on that. Okay. So we have that all cut. We're going to weed this too. So what I did with this is I did just separate the different sections just to make it a bit easier with the weeding and obviously with the application. But you'll see these fonts are beautiful. They're so, so awesome. This does look slightly larger though. No, I think we're good. I think we're good. So I'd love to know in the comments if you are going to Hobby X. Will you be going to the members only event? Will you be joining in on the secret sale? I am going to live vicariously through everybody that gets to enjoy this. And how beautifully is this weeding? Love it. So Claudia said she forgot what day it was, which is so funny because I got a phone call just before the class, and the first thing I said was, did you forget that it was Tuesday? And the answer was yes. So the public holidays have really messed with us. I was actually saying to my boss today that I am so confused. I don't have a handle on life right now, and that's completely fine because we do have a lot going on. Joburg, you've just had the Rand Easter show, and now you're being spoiled with Hobby X. There's been the Pimp My Skipper. There's been so much going on, and then on top of that, all of the public holidays, long weekends. So you are completely forgiven. Okay, we're just going to do this. Yes, we unfortunately in Durban do not have Hobby X, but we do obviously have our own exciting things that happen, and I absolutely cannot wait for Durban's spoils, let's say. So I hope I'm going to see all of you there when it is Durban's turn. So I did just lose my R, so I am just going to try. We'll get it, we'll get it. Okay, let's see if we can get our R. Otherwise, we will just match all of them and no one will have an R. Okay, so nobody gets a little dotty, unfortunately. Okay, we're almost done with our weeding. I think this is probably the longest part, the weeding and also the painting of the heavy chipboard. That did take quite a while because obviously I did do quite a few coats. But what I love about this paint, so this one, the charcoal one, and the Granny Bees, both of them are chalk paints. Both of them work really well without a primer, and they dry really quickly. So if you're in a rush, if you are working on a deadline, they are really great. Beautiful paints, love them. So unfortunately this dot being lost, I can't blame it on anybody but myself. I worked a bit too fast and then I got it stuck to the back of the vinyl. So that was me. I take it. And I love this weeding tool. If you have ever considered getting the Cricut weeding set, this is absolutely my favorite weeding tool in the whole world. I don't know if you can see that. It's got a little hook on the end and it just makes it so easy to weed. Absolutely love it. I actually battled to use the normal weeding tool after using this one. Okay, almost there. Yes, I love the Cricut weeding set. It is beautiful. So I think when you start out, you see all of these things and you think, oh, you know, don't really need that, until you use them and then you realize how innovative they really are. So for me, the brayer, I was like, oh, I can just use my hand, it'll be fine. But once you use it, you realize the difference that it makes, and it really does give you such a nice clean cut. You don't have bubbles under your vinyl. Even applying your matte cover back on after you've used it, no bubbles, longer lasting matte. It's amazing. The weeding tool set, you think, ah, but I've got a weeding tool, it'll be fine. And then you use it and you realize it's amazing. I absolutely love this little hooky tool. I can't say it enough. So Mum has said that I had introduced her to the weeding tool. I think it was actually at a demo. So if you haven't joined a demo, they happen countrywide. They are so much fun. We have good laughs. We make amazing projects. We have a lot of fun chatting to everybody that comes out. Tanya and Santi are actually regulars at my demos, and I absolutely love having them out there. So if you have not joined a demo, you definitely should. Even if you're a more experienced user, demos are not just for beginners, it's for anybody that loves Cricut. If you want to be involved, you want to come out and chat to like-minded people, you want to waste a bit of time on a Saturday, loads and loads of fun. Okay, so we're done with that. So I'm going to put this aside, because we're going to use that just now. Okay, and we have our sign, so you can see it's being held together here. Okay, and now we're going to use some transfer tape. So what you can do is you can take the transfer tape and you can actually stick it on the floor or on your shirt or pretty much anything, just to make it less sticky, and that's going to make it easier for you to work with it. So if you are a great painter, you may not need to do this step. I cannot paint. On my original, I actually tried this like rough style of painting, and honestly I do not like it. It is not for me at all. So we're going to stick that down. So I'm going to go with a bit of a cleaner style of painting now. and then I'm just going to snip this because I can use this somewhere else. And also remember that you don't use your transfer tape one time and then throw it away. You can use it multiple times. So everything that I've cut here, I should more or less be able to get all of this onto our sign. Okay, so now what you want to do, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my masking tape and I'm going to cut a piece that's just a bit longer than this. Okay, so I'm putting it sticky side up and I'm just lining it up with the edge and I'm curling it around so that I can hold it. You see, like so. Okay, oopsie, it's all stuck to my fingers. Try not to get it stuck to your fingers. So we'll just fold that. Stuck it together. This is going to act as a guide for me, basically. So I'm just going to place this where I want it. Okay, I'm happy with that. Oopsie. And we're going to block this off. Okay, so you can see I've stretched mine. It's a little bit skew. It's fine. It's fine. We shall survive. Okay, so let me show you how I am transferring this, and I do this with everything. So it's called the rolling method, and I'm sliding the transfer, the backing back on itself. Okay, if I see anywhere that it didn't stick, then I go back and I press down a little harder. You can also adjust your direction. That does help. Okay, press down. Sorry, it is a little bit loud. I think it's right next to the speaker. And there we have it. Okay, now we're going to put our little stencils on. Okay, so I think we can go up slightly. That's good. So you can see as well, I'm really only applying pressure where my stencil is. Yes, so Carol says patience is the name of the game, and I must admit, I completely agree. I find when I'm rushing, I make so many mistakes. I end up getting frustrated. It's not fun. So I agree completely. Patience is the name of the game. So you can see when I remove the transfer tape, I do it in the same way that I applied it, or that I transferred my vinyl, and that's to slide it back on itself. So we're going to use that. Okay, now we get to do the fun part, and that is to give our stuff a quick paint. You can then get rid of this. That was just acting as a guide for us. I do have some water. These can go aside. And I have some paintbrushes. So what I decided to do is do the girls in pink and then do the boy obviously in blue. You can do each flower a different color if you wanted. It's completely up to you. It's your beautiful creation. And what's nice about this is you can work a little bit faster than you usually would if you were trying to paint normally. And you might be asking, why didn't I just apply the black vinyl and then paint? So you can see that I am overlapping the vinyl. So if I had applied the black vinyl first, then I would have parts of it that had paint on it, which obviously would not be ideal. It's not going to look as neat as we want it to. So we're just going to go and paint this. Okay, so I do just want to give you a little tip about stenciling. So I made an Easter sign, and I made some Easter tags, and I used stencils to do that. Did I do it with the tags? I'm not sure. Okay, but here's the thing. So you know that any type of wood obviously has ridges in it. It's not completely smooth, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but you can actually see the ridges in it. So what happens when you apply a stencil and you paint over it, it actually bleeds. So how do you stop it from bleeding? There's two ways that you can do that. So the first way is to first paint a layer of your base color. So in this case it would be white. Let that dry completely. Once that's completely dry, then you would apply your next color. So we would obviously, here we would have applied white over our stencil, let that dry completely, and then we would have done this part of it. Why I'm not doing it now is because we're not using the stencil to create a pattern or anything like that. We're literally just painting within our stencil, and it's just going to act as like a place marker for us basically. So I will also just show you a example of what I'm talking about. So the other option is if you have gesso, you can paint a layer of gesso, and that will act the same way as the base color. So I found gesso worked really well because you can use quite a bit of it and you get that nice protection. I think this is the longest part, but don't worry, we're almost there. We're almost there. After this, it will be super quick. And then let's also just, while I'm painting, we can talk about sealing it. So you can either use a gesso or you can use a clear spray paint. So if it's going to be outside, then I would obviously suggest a clear spray paint. It is a garden sign. So what you can do is you can apply a layer of gesso or Mod Podge, and that's going to protect your vinyl. So if you did not know, spray paint can actually eat vinyl, so it will actually make it sort of crinkle and shrivel up. So you can either apply a layer of gesso or Mod Podge and then spray paint it, or you can apply a very thin layer of the spray paint, let that dry completely, and then you can go more. So for me, the gesso or the Mod Podge is easier simply because I can work faster. Okay, our blue needs a bit of a mix. So what you can also do, you can let the kids paint this if you want to. Let each of them paint their own flower, and that will save you. So my blue's super icky. Needs a good mix. And it doesn't help, I don't know if you can see, but I'm shaking. So it doesn't really help neat painting when I'm shaking. But we're almost there. I I should get like a sound effects thing so I can do what's it, ASMR, AMSR, that thing, where they have like those weird sounds. It would make the painting process a lot more interesting. Gel medium. So Natalie says gel medium is also a good sealant. I've actually never heard of that, to be honest, so I will definitely look into that. Okay, we have our blue done. And then for our leaves, I'm going to use a bit of a smaller brush for some of them. Yeah, I should probably... And I think with the leaves is where you'll see the need for the stencil a lot more. It did go out slightly, but it's fine. It's fine. So with your stenciling, you don't have to wait until it's dry. You can take it off while it's still wet, which is what we're obviously going to do. And then we're going to set it aside to dry while we do our other little pieces. Oopsie, we did go out again. And you can also just, if you want to, go and tidy it up afterwards with your white paint. And what you can also do is, if you make a bigger sign, you can actually use handprints as the flowers. Especially if you have little kitties, I think that's a really cute idea. You would obviously have to go a lot bigger with your sign though, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Now we're going to remove the vinyl. So your weeding tool will actually work great for that. Going to stick that down here. Here we are. So you can see when I'm removing it, I'm sliding my weeding tool under the stem so that I don't damage the backing. And if it does happen to nick something, it is just going to be a part that's hidden. So we're just going to use our tweezers here. Another thing the stencil does is it's going to help your black vinyl to sit flush. It's not going to be sitting or have bubbles where there's paint underneath of it. So this will also just help it be a little bit more flush. put that aside for a minute. I'll stick that there. I'm going to move this. So I did say I would just show you the stencil. So this was done completely with stencils, so the black part is stencils. I've got vinyl stuck to my finger. In some parts it did leak, and that's why I was like, I have to do the gesso thing for every layer. So on this one, I'm actually showing you like a half done project here. So with this one, you can see, look how nice and crisp the grass is. There's no leaking. It looks amazing. Okay, so we're going to put our vinyl on here quickly. And for this, we do just want to give it a little, and the same concept that we used with our removable vinyl, as far back as possible. I think that's centered. Focusing again where the vinyl is. And I will use this for our birds. So you can see I've used it for quite a few things. You don't have to use it one time and throw it away. You can save it, you can reuse it. That is the beauty of Cricut vinyl. Transfer tape, not vinyl. There we are. So I'm going to use this one as a guard. And I'll keep this. Okay, so we have that. Looks like everything's dry, so we can do this part. Let's move that. So full disclaimer, what I did do the first time around is I actually transferred these one by one. I just found it a lot easier. We are going to attempt to do all of them at once. Let's just see how we go. So you can see I do use quite a bit of force, but it does the job. Okay, so I'm going to snip that. And we're going to apply that one. Okay, and then we're going to move on to our next one. So I find it easier to do this method when I have a little bit of extra at the end and it's not too little to work with. So you can see I have a bit more in my hand now. It makes it a bit easier for me to do it. Sorry, again, it is very loud. Okay, snip a bit off, just because I can hear I'm killing your ears a little bit. And there we are. And we're almost done, actually. We've got like 2 or 3 more steps and we're done. Sorry, it is very loud. And don't be scared to make it work for you. So you can see I am transferring and snipping little bits off. I just go with what works for me, what makes it a bit easier for me. There we are. So Margaret said you see me rolling. Yes, indeed you do. Yes, indeed you do. Okay, make sure that everything is nice and lined up. Okay, so we're going to apply. We're just lining it up, obviously. Okay. Oh goodness, we almost ripped off Skylar's name. There we are. Okay, so we have our names on. Now we're going to stick our little bottom piece on and our top piece. Okay, so now we want to put our little birdies. Let's stick it first. So I will admit it's not always easy. So Wendy said that I make it look so easy. I will admit it's not always easy, but patience and perseverance create the most amazing projects. So sometimes you just have to just breathe a little and it all comes together. Okay, so we just want to make sure these will fit. They will fit. We're good. And if you want to make your flowers a bit bigger, so I will just show you a comparison shortly. If you do want to make your flowers a bit bigger, you can. I did that with the first one, and I just wanted to try something a little bit different with this one. Okay, so we want these guys. So I'm snipping it right at the bottom because I want them to sit flush. Like so. I want them to be like right in there. Like so. Oopsie, we don't want them over there. There we want them. And then we want this guy here. Also nice and flush. Okay, our last step is going to be to do our twine. So we're going to grab a piece, snip it, flip it, snip it, flip it. Okay, so this is going to slide in there, and this is going to obviously slide in there. It helps if you cut it directly before doing it so that it hasn't had a chance to unravel. Okay, make it however long you want it. Tie your knots. I don't want it too long, like so. And then just snip it. And there it is, it hangs, so you can see it hangs. And there is your garden sign. So let me just grab the other one so you can have a look at the size difference. So you can see that this one I did the flowers a lot bigger, I did the birdies a little bit bigger. I think our wording is pretty much the same size, and you can see that the style of painting that I used was a little bit different. So you can do it however you want to. Obviously it is completely up to you. It is your design, but I'm very excited to see what everybody will do with this. So that is one sheet of heavy chipboard. It is a very cost-effective project. So one sheet each. I think you get 4 sheets in a pack. Let me just check. You get 5 sheets in a pack. So you can make 5 of these signs with 1 pack of heavy chipboard, which is really, really cost-effective. So thank you everybody for joining me. I did run a little bit over, but I hope that it was worth it. You can see there's a bit of chaos here, but it has been amazing hanging out with you as always, and I can't wait to do it again soon. Have a good evening.